the next few days to help a French intervention against Islamist rebels. Well, we have all these plus the latest preparations from the Blasters camp. Please stay for the details. The criminal case involving businessman Alfred Agbesi Wyome resumed at the Financial Division of the Accra Fast Track High Court in Accra. The state is seeking to retrieve an amount of 51 million Ghana cedis said to have been wrongfully paid to Wyome as judgment debt. The case has been adjourned due to the prosecutor's inability to produce a witness in court.
Alfred Agbesi Wyome is facing 2 counts of defrauding by false pretenses and causing financial loss to the state. So far, 3 prosecution witnesses have testified in the case, including the deputy head of the legal department at the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, Mangowa Ghani, a former Ministry of Finance, Yawosafa Mafo, and a former Deputy Minister of Finance, Kweku Ajimaimenu. At the last hearing, the state, led by Chief State Attorney Matthew Amponsa, failed to produce a witness in court, thus necessitating an adjournment to today. When the case was called in court today, the state, led by Chief State Attorney Cynthia Lamptey, once again failed to produce a witness to continue with hearing as agreed per the last sitting. Trial Judge Justice Ajet Nassam therefore had no option but to adjourn hearing to Monday, January 28, whilst encouraging the state to produce its witnesses to enable the continuation of the case.
Well, officials of the Land Commission have requested the sole commissioner on judgment debts to give them until the first week in February to gather sufficient documentation to aid the commissioner's work. Chief Valuation Officer of the Lands Commission in charge of compensation, Kwesi Bento Enchil, pledged his commitment to turn in the said document covering compensation payments to persons whose lands were taken for development projects to the Commission by the first week in February. 3 institutions, the Lands Commission, the Auditor General's Department, and the Executive Secretary of the Ministry of Finance, were billed to appear before the Commission today, but only 2 were present. The Auditor General, who was represented by his deputy, and the Lands Commission. The sole commissioner, however, petitioned the general public to have patience with the witnesses and said February will be a month of serious hearing after the commission finishes gathering evidence.
We plead with the public to bear with us. You know, this is the beginning, and very soon I'm sure we'll be sitting for long hours because other individuals and institutions who have submitted memoranda to the commission will be appearing before the commission, you know, to testify. And so I know from February going, it will be very hot.
While we're going back to the courts, the Supreme Court has fixed Wednesday, January 16, 2013, to hear the application by the National Democratic Congress, NDC, seeking to join a petition contesting the declaration of President John Dramani Mahama as winner of the December 7, 2012 presidential polls. On Thursday, January 10, 2013, the court indefinitely adjourned the hearing of the application after lawyers for the petitioners objected to the composition of the 9-member panel presided over by Justice William Atuguba.
Other members of the panel are Justice Julius Ansa, Justice Sophia Adinyira, Justice Rose Owusu, Justice Jones Doche, Justice Enin Yeboah, Justice P. Bafo-Boni, Justice N.S. Gadegbe, and Justice Vida Akoto-Banfo. However, lawyers for the petitioners withdrew their opposition to the panel on Friday, January 11, 2013, barely 24 hours after they had raised the objection. Following the withdrawal, the Registrar of the Supreme Court, James Amwa, had since served hearing notices on lawyers for parties in the case. The hearing notice was dated January 14, 2013. One of the lawyers for President Mahama, Tony Lether, confirmed the serving of the hearing notice on him to appear on behalf of the president. A member of the legal team for the petitioners, Godfred Yeboah-Dame, also confirmed that his side had received a copy of the notice. The presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party, NPP, in the 2012 elections, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, his running mate Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia, and the chairman of the NPP, Jake Obechebi-Lamte, are contesting the declaration of President Mahama as winner of the 2012 presidential poll. Also joined to the petition is the Electoral Commission, which presided over the poll. The petitioners are accusing the EC of doctoring the results in favor of President Mahama. But the EC has denied the claims and described the election results as credible and accurate.
And we move away from the capital into the Bono Ahafo region. Now, the regional fire commander there, Assistant Chief Fire Officer Kwame Labi Apreku, has bemoaned the increasing spate of fire outbreaks within the region. He says the region has already recorded 57 fires from January 1st to January 14 this year. He spoke to correspondent Nesta Kafui Ajuma in Sunyai.
Fire outbreaks in the region have been on the ascendancy since the beginning of the year. Although no fatalities have been recorded, the Regional Fire Command believes the increase in number of fires 2 weeks into the new year is because most people do not take fire precautions seriously. The region recorded 569 fire outbreaks in 2012, a 100% increase over the 298 seized of 2011. This is the highest ever recorded in the region and places Bono Ahafo second to the Ashanti region on the national scorecard in the last 12 months. Domestic, electrical and bushfires are the major causes of fires in the region. So, what measures are in place to address this problem? Assistant Chief Fire Officer Kwame Labi Apreku has some answers.
To reduce the cause of fire by intensifying our public education, which is very, very important. We go to the markets, we are going to the hotels, public places, to advise people on how to prevent fires in their premises. This is what we are trying to embark on. We have even started. Then on bushfires, we have set up a task force which are monitoring our farming areas. There is a law.
He appealed to legislative powers for the fire service to prosecute offenders. He also called on the general public to strictly observe fire safety precautions. Meanwhile, Joy News crew chanced on Kwesi Treme, whose residence was recently gutted by fire.
Mr. Amanfo says, "Atorenche ya to me, baby, I don't know, mini bia eboame, Timesre say, as on a son of phone NGOs no. Nesta
Kafui Ajuma's report for Joy News.
3 suspected armed robbers have been shot dead by the Ashanti Regional Police Command in the early hours of today. The robbers are said to be ex-convicts and linked to recent robberies in the Kumasi metropolis. Mohammed Nuruddin reports.
According to the police command, the ex-convicts numbering 4 were accosted at Nketia on the Adankwame Road by 2 policemen. However, 2 of the suspects managed to escape, while the remaining 2 were later sent to the Central Police Station and handed over to the Buffalo unit. While being escorted to the Buffalo unit charge office, they disentangled and tried to escape by scaling the regional police headquarters wall, but were shot dead in the process. According to the police command, police intelligence led them to the hideout of the leader of the criminal gang, Abacha, who is a notorious armed robber on police wanted list. A gun battle ensued in the process of arresting Abacha, leading to his death and the police officer sustaining gunshot wounds. Deputy Commissioner of Police DCOP Augustine Janing is Ashanti Regional Police Commander.
There is a 4-member group, a gang of armed robbers, who after the Christmas and before the Christmas were terrorizing citizens of Kumasi and its environs. We picked intelligence information about them, and we got to know that they are a terrible group because they use sophisticated weapons. Most of the people use locally manufactured pistols, but this group are using an AK-47 assault rifle, a pump action gun, and other offensive weapons. So last night, some of our boys were going home when they chanced upon them. And because of the fact that we are giving intelligence information about them, they accosted them and got to immediately arrested. And then we found the AK-47 assault rifle with them.
One AK-47 assault rifle with 39 live ammunition, a pump-action gun with 14 live rounds of ammunition, one German pistol also with 18 rounds, 9mm live ammunition and 2 machetes were retrieved from them. The police say the robbers recently robbed Informal Project Microfinance Company Limited at Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, a supermarket at Eyiduase, among others, and made away with an amount of 20,000 Ghana cedis. One of the suspects is on the run. However, the police is appealing to the general public to assist with information that will lead to his arrest.
We are left with one, and that person stays at Adam Kwame area. We are appealing to everybody who knows him, because they know the group, to let us know. The intelligence information we were picking shows that a lot of people know the group, but they were afraid to approach us. So now we are telling the whole world, we are telling the people of Adam Kwame and Akropong that we need the remaining one. So they should help us to get him, and then
now to a rather unfortunate story. Failures and other unfortunate incidents do not form part of a normal person's New Year's resolutions. But 2 weeks into the new year, too many of these unwanted accidents appear to be emerging and sending very worrying signals. While others are hit with infernos and accidents at the workplace, others are hit with life-threatening encounters, bringing them a whisker away from death. Now, a little innocent 6-year-old boy in an Asuchai was nearly decapitated by a tenant in his father's house. Joy News has been following the horrifying experience of little Emmanuel.
For a second, the household at Asuchari thought they were daydreaming or hallucinating. Like a Christmas cockerel, a knife was put to his neck, quite different from the Abraham and Isaac story in the Holy Bible. God's intervention made his jugular vein escape the bread knife. On his hospital bed, he looks fine, but one could tell the boy was in pain.
We are sorry about your predicament, but how are you doing now?
Fine.
Good to see you. What did he do to you? Well, as you can see, it looks as though he's tired and he can't say a word for now. But we must have been singing a different sort of song had it been maybe an okapi knife or a sharper knife. But we thank God, he's alive and he's doing just fine.
His mom, Augustina Akwabla, described the suspect as one with no previous traces of dementia. The attack was shocking to them.
In fact, it's a very surprising thing that an adult can take a knife or any object to inflict such an injury to such a little boy. He's responding very well, yeah, as compared to the time he came. He's doing well. Currently, he's eating. Yeah.
Here, Kwajo Boateng alias Apaska looks sober, but he may have murdered the boy if his operation had lasted just a few seconds longer. Thanks to the boy screaming for help when Apaska's bread knife was cutting roughly through his throat to his windpipe. The Divisional Police Commander, Chief Superintendent Amu Ayusi, would want to complete investigations to know the exact charge to bring against Apaska. This incident raises numerous questions on the mental state of Kwajo Boateng. Dr. Akutose, a chief psychiatrist, has some answers.
There is a kind of mental illness that can come suddenly and will also resolve spontaneously, even if no medication is given, in a matter of days or maximum 2 weeks. So it is possible that there was an acute mental illness that happened. It's equally possible that this is somebody who may have been abusing cannabis and we don't know. It is also possible that he's had a previous mental illness in the past. Maybe he was well and then he was beginning to have the relapse, and that instance was the relapse of the illness. It's equally possible that somebody who may have had some insidious kind of mental illness, it was with him, they saw or they may have seen, but they may have ignored, thinking it was insignificant, trivialized it, and at that point, it really became significant. So all these possibilities are there. There is also a possibility of somebody who has a problem with his very nature. We call that personality disorder. So such a person is an ingrained situation in him. He has it all along, and the way he reacts to given situations is quite abnormal. And that was one way by which he reacted to some circumstance that precipitated it, we don't know. The bottom line is that, yes, it's not impossible at all that there was a mental illness going on at that time.
Dr. Akoto recommends a thorough psychiatric evaluation for him rather than quickly sending him to prison.
Frankly, I think that if the police go ahead, prosecute him, and the judges also convict him without recourse to assessment of his mental health, it could be a little dangerous, because if this person really has a mental illness and is not assessed to find out and treat, then such a person goes to jail, and possibly such a conduct might even happen in jail, or he comes out and he still has a mental illness and he may perpetrate the action again.
A hospital is said to be the haven of emergency. Just as we're about to leave the Akuse Government Hospital, a young man was rushed in. He nearly lost his fingers to a factory machine. It looks as though daily prayer is even not enough. Wyome Johnson, Joy News.
That's a very unfortunate one. Well, in a related story, Chief Psychiatrist at the Accra Psychiatric Hospital, Dr. Akutose, is urging all stakeholders to double their efforts in implementing the mental health bill, which was passed last year. He said to a large extent, the gory incident at the hospital, which led to the death of one patient and injury of another, could have been prevented if structures were put in place. Abla D'Souza and Derek Wyome Johnson give an account of a visit to the hospital.
A female inmate at the Accra Psychiatric Hospital is reported to have strangled a fellow inmate to death. The accused, Ekuya Pokuya, who was admitted about a week ago, purportedly repressed Charlotte Nyako to death with a piece of cloth. An undisclosed inmate is reported to have narrowly escaped death, but remains severely injured in the head. So, I went to the hospital to get first-hand information on what transpired. As I walked the compound and corridors leading to the crime scene, I was gripped with fear. I just couldn't get rid of the possibility of being attacked from behind by an inmate. And looking at the crime scene, I wondered how long the victims and suspect had struggled before help came, though too late. Authorities at the Accra Psychiatric Hospital have attributed the alleged murder of the inmate and injury of another to the unavailability of drugs, insufficient personnel, and congestion at the facility. Chief Psychiatrist Dr. Kwesi, in an interview with Joy News, said the hospital is facing a lot of challenges.
The patient who was murdered, if you may put it that way, had been at the hospital for 26 years. Admitted in 1986, been at the hospital for 27 years. The question then is, how come that somebody can be here for so long? And people have been here for 30, 40 years even. So again, it comes with our system not working enough to the point that somebody can come and dump his or her patient here for so long.
On the unavailability of drugs, he emphasized that if drugs are not supplied, more serious problems could arise.
Under normal circumstances, no matter how aggressive you are, within 2-3 days, we will let you quieten down. We will calm you down. This patient had been there for 1 week without being calm. That already shows something. So
there was no drug for that.
We didn't have adequate medicines for her. So that is part of the problem. So numerous challenges, and all these challenges should be addressed. And I expect people to look at it from that perspective rather than the part that the staff played in getting to this situation.
He intimated that on the day of the incident, only 2 nurses instead of 20 were present to take care of 100 patients. On the issue of congestion, he explained that a ward, which is supposed to accommodate 50 patients, has 100. The suspect has since been confined and the body of the deceased deposited at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital mortuary pending autopsy.
Our mental health care is certainly not good enough, and I've said a number of times that if you don't do something about our health care, we are going to have more, or we are going to have worse situations than even what we've had. Nobody's praying for that, neither is anybody justifying it. But that's the kind of situation. The solution actually, eventually and ultimately, is to implement the Mental Health Act that has been passed.
The injured inmate is receiving treatment at the Ridge Hospital. The police is presently investigating the incident. The Mental Health Act, which seeks to protect the mentally ill, will, among other things, overhaul the Mental Health Act, which seeks to protect the mentally ill, will, among other things, overhaul the mental health care delivery in the country and decentralize the process to limit congestion at key mental health facilities and promote community-based treatment of patients.
Now let's take a look at the presidency. Norway is calling for wider bilateral collaborations with Ghana in fighting terrorism as well as dealing with climate change and environmental issues. Outgoing Norwegian High Commissioner Tony Tygel said tighter collaborations coupled with experience and dedication of government will further spur Ghana ahead in development. He was also bid farewell to President Mahama at the end of his mission in Ghana. The oil-rich Scandinavian country has been sharing its expertise in oil and gas production and management with Ghana through the provision of goods and services to the Jubilee partners. Tony Tygel said Ghana's enviable international reputation is not incidental, but through a comprehensive, deep and strong leadership, more of which is required to move the country forward.
Ghana is a young nation, and we discovered oil 40 years ago, and we have had a very steep learning curve, but we are very happy that we can share some of our experience. I think 2013 will be the year where we will focus a lot more on the revenue management and the distribution of revenue for Ghana, for the whole population, and for future generations, which is really one of the purposes of our program to Ghana in that regard. This is going to be a major element of our cooperation in the future, not only the traditional development aid, but investment and trade.
President John Mahama lauded the establishment of the Norwegian High Commission here in Ghana and said the country will learn from Norway's system of governance, which ensures an equitable distribution of state resources.
There can be no true democracy if the fruits of growth of any nation are not equitably shared amongst the various classes of society. And so that is what Ghana wishes to follow, to create a country where nobody is left behind, and that we have currently put in important pieces of legislation, which today are ensuring that the management of this new resource that we have been blessed with are handled in a transparent and accountable manner. We think that the future in that particular sector is very bright, and creating alliances with countries like yours would help us to be able to not reinvent the wheel, but share in best practices that have already been tried and tested.
High Commissioner Tony Tigel says his successor arrives in the country in a few weeks. A group calling itself the Upper West Communication Group of the ruling NDC has appealed to President Mahama to be mindful of those who lobby him incessantly for positions for themselves or for other people. Though they failed to name specific people, they suggested to the president to be firm and only nominate people he thinks will best serve the interest of the people rather than satisfy the egos of a select few. Here is a report by Rafiq Salam.
The press conference by the Upper West Communication Group of the National Democratic Congress was in threefold. First, to congratulate President Mahama for his victory in the last elections, thank him for nominating acting Upper West Regional Minister Alhaji Amin Amidu Suleimani as the Minister for Roads and Highways, and stating their case on the petition filed at the Supreme Court by the New Patriotic Party against President and the Electoral Commission. Flanked by fellow communication group members, the convener of the group, Abdul Rahman Osman Bab, stated the victory of President Mahama is anchored on his truthfulness, humility, steadfastness, tolerance, among others. Abdul Rahman, however, took a swipe at the NPP, saying their ill motive in the aftermath of the 2012 elections is a source of worry. He appealed to the opposition NPP to do the country a favor by conceding defeat and taking their case out of the Supreme Court.
The current political posture by the opposition New Patriotic Party is only an attempt to set back the clock of the democratic accolades that we have used so many years to achieve. We can understand how difficult it is to come out of the shock of losing an election, but the modus operandi of the MPP to manage their shock is very questionable. Ghanaians are fed up with their so-called rock-solid or watertight evidence. We are therefore calling on the leadership of the New Patriotic Party to do Mother Ghana a favor by simply conceding defeat.
The group thanked the president for nominating acting Upper West Regional Minister and Member of Parliament for Sisala West as Minister of Roads and Highways. However, they had this plea for the president on those jostling for power.
We, the youth in the Upper West region, will respectfully suggest to the president to put his feet on the ground and nominate people whom he feels will best serve the interests of the people and not people who will only come to satisfy their egos to the neglect of the youth.
And we go back to the castle. Deceased Volta Regional Minister Henry Ford Kamel would be given a state burial on the 23rd of February this year, a date communicated to the presidency by the family of the late minister. President Mahama said he is entitled to a state burial since he died in the line of duty. The president today received the family of the late Henry Ford Kamel at the castle in Usu. The remains of Henry Ford Kamel would be received by his family from the 37 Military Hospital on 22nd February. The burial rite will follow on 24th February in Wyome. District Chief Executive Nana Kumesi Bonsi led a delegation of Henry Ford Kamel's family, traditional heads, as well as some regional executives of the NDC in the Volta region.
We are here to announce to His Excellency the President of the Republic of Ghana the sudden and untimely demise of our son, our brother, our husband, our comrade in arms, and a father and a mentor, Ford Henry Kamel, for his hard work. We have installed him even as in Kosohini. So we need to inform you of 2 bottles of schnapps and to officially invite His Excellency to the funeral. Thank you.
Recounting memories of the late minister, President Mahama described Henry Ford Kamel as a kind, gentle, and respectable man whose role in restoring peace, especially during the Hohoi disturbances, cannot be overemphasized.
Indeed, that was a defining moment for Ford Kamel. His skills in diplomacy, his human relations, and everything were brought into play to try and restore peace in Hohoi. You could see that it was due a large part to his skill as a broker in that conflict that peace had returned to the place. He had carried out the process of establishing lasting peace by putting up the committee to inquire into the Hohoi disturbances, working to ensure the rebuilding of the palace and several other, things that he was doing. He worked conscientiously, so it wasn't surprising again that in one of the reshuffles that Professor Mills made, he elevated him.
The president said government will be represented at a very high level during the state's burial. The Electoral Commission on Tuesday fixed Wednesday, February 6 for the holding of elections to elect regional representatives to the Council of State. In a statement to the Ghana News Agency signed by Kwejo Safo Kantanka, the Electoral Commission, the EC's deputy chairman in charge of operations, he said the commission will take nominations on Monday and Tuesday, January 21st and 22nd respectively from 8 a.m. to 12 noon and 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. each day. The EC said nomination forms are available at all regional offices of the Commission. Prospective candidates are required to submit 2 recent photographs to the returning officer on submission of the nomination forms. Moving on with other stories, Dean of the Faculty of Law at the University of Ghana, Professor Kofi Kwashiga, has advised against the use of state instruments to achieve peculiar religious interest. He spoke to Joy News after a conference held at the Faculty of Law on law and religion.
Referring to cases in Mali and Nigeria where one religion wants to impose its tenets on the other religion, typical example Boko Haram, who controls Nigeria's north and are seeking to push further to the south, and in Mali, Islamists advanced, creating fears that the country could provide a safe haven for Al-Qaeda-linked extremists, posing a threat to the region. Professor Kofi Kwashi condemned the act and advised that tolerance should be the panacea to religious conflicts.
We should be conscious of the fact that the most important thing we have to accept is that when it comes to matters of religion, you cannot want to impose yours on the others. And so we should not use the state, the instrumentality of the state to achieve, we should not want to use the instrumentality of the state to achieve our peculiar religious interests. The state should, as much as possible, be neutral in matters of religion, not using the instruments of the state to support one particular religion.
Professor Kwabna Asamoah Jedu of the Trinity Theological Seminar, given a presentation on charismatic, the media and democratic elections in Ghana, also advised against the use of sermons in political adverts.
I don't think that it is right to take sermons. Sermons are preached to the public, and the public is supposed to learn from them. We don't preach sermons so that people use them in political campaigning. We are non-partisan, so our voices should not be inserted into partisan politics.
The 2-day confab on religion and law brought together experts in law and religion to deliberate on the role of law and religion in society.
In Africa, yes, as far as it relates to law and religion, we are hoping that out of it we will develop, as I said earlier on, a consortium of experts in Africa that will meet from time to time to discuss these issues, hoping that it may eventually have some influence on the political aspect of our lives.
The conference was organized by the Faculty of Law, University of Ghana, in collaboration with the Center of Law and Religion, Emory University, and J. Reuben Clark Brenham Law School, United States.
You're still watching Joy News at 8. Time now for the business report. Cowpea farmers across the country can now cultivate high-yielding varieties of the legume. Thanks to the Crop Research Institute of the Center for Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR, the high-yielding cowpea has many advantages over the local ones.
The cowpea improvement program was successful due to the collaborative efforts between the Crop Research Institute of CSIR, Ministry of Food and Agriculture, Alliance for Green Revolution in Africa, AGRA, and other development partners. The new varieties, which include Hewale, Asumdwe, and Videza, were displayed at demonstration fields in Wenchi and Kintampo in the Bonahafo region. Hewale and Asumdwe varieties are early maturing, high-yielding, and moderately tolerant to disease, insect, and pests. Videza, on the other hand, is a dual-purpose cowpea being grown for its fodder as well as its grains. With the new variety, farmers can spray for a maximum of 6 times and minimum of 4 times before maturing, as compared to the 10 times spraying of the local varieties. Sylvester Addo is a research assistant at the Crop Research Institute of CSIR.
One particular advantage of these varieties is their tolerance or resistance to diseases and insect pests. We have realized, as farmers indicate, that they've been spraying up to about 10 times, and still they wouldn't get the yield that we have gotten from this field. Surprisingly, this field has only seen between 5 and 6 sprayings, and the yield is splendid.
While the Accra Metropolitan Assembly gave hawkers up to close of business yesterday to leave the streets and business districts with their goods. When Joy News visited the Makola market today, some of them were still at post, playing the usual hide and seek with AMA officials. Now, most of them registered disappointment with the government for preventing them from fending for themselves and their families.
When we arrived at the Makola market, it appeared most of the hawkers had left the pavements, and it was easy to meander through the market. Zoom Lion had begun cleaning the gutters, and the pile of rubbish near the revealed another negative side of hawking. There was free traffic flow, and the numbers on the streets had reduced drastically. A careful scrutiny, however, revealed business was booming as usual. Kayaye were busy carrying goods for their customers, and hawkers were not hiding their trading activities, even though they were careful to avoid being spotted by the AMA task force, locally known as Abaye. I asked Alexander Yabua why he was still hawking when the AMA had instructed them to leave the streets.
Because
I will plead with government to give us more time to leave the streets. Those in Kumasi, for instance, were given 2 weeks' notice. In times like this, they even come to Okanshi, which is a market, to drive out those standing in the market engaging in petty trading. My spongins have been seized about 4 times already. It is worth about 150 Ghana cedis. Anytime it is seized, I have to pay between 20 to 30 Ghana cedis to have them back. They should at least leave Okanshi for us.
He added the security presence was not heavy enough to serve as a deterrent to hawkers who needed to earn a living. Stella Amwa is also a hawker at the Makola market.
In fact, the pavement has become very neat after the evacuation exercise, but there should be some considerations. We are with the NDC, so they shouldn't disappoint us. For instance, what harm does it pose if I sit in front of my sister's store to sell few items? Some of us are at safe and convenient areas that pose no harm. I am not saying they should be selective, but considerate.
Mary Lomote, who also...
Well, that does it for the business reports, but here are some tips if you want to invest your money. time now to check out the latest in the world of sports. My name is Rashidat Baba Kadiri. Now, Ghana striker Richmond Boakye-Adam was unable to complete this evening's training session after sustaining an injury. The 19-year-old picked up the injury while going in for a tackle with an unnoticed teammate. The on-loan Juventus striker at Italian Serie B club Sassuolo limped off the pitch with the unspecified injury. The Black Stars medical team will assess his condition later in the evening and, if necessary, will take him to the hospital tomorrow for further examination. The injury picked up by Boakye-Adam compounds the fitness situation in the Ghana camp ahead of the 2013 Africa Cup of Nations, which commences this weekend. Ghana is already sweating on the fitness of defender Isaac Vosa and midfielder Anthony Annan, who are battling minor injuries. Coach Kwesi Appiah will be hoping to have all his players fit for Ghana's opening game against DR Congo on Sunday. The team is expected to travel to South Africa on Wednesday, 4 days clear towards their opening Group B encounter. The Black Stars, who will be based in Port Elizabeth, will also face Mali and Niger at the group stage. Ghana's defender Rashid Sumaila left the Black Stars camp in Abu Dhabi on Monday to rejoin his club Asante Kotoko. The centre-back was part of the preliminary 26-man squad named by Coach Kwesi Appiah for the 2013 Africa Cup of Nations pre-tournament campaign, but he was not part of the final 23-man squad named by the coach for the tournament in South Africa. Despite being left out of the squad, Sumaila stayed with the team and trained diligently. With the Black Stars set to leave the United Arab Emirates tomorrow for South Africa, Sumaila has now been allowed to join his club in Ghana. Ghana coach Kwesi Appiah has hailed Sumaila's commitment to the national team, insisting he will continue to monitor the defender for future assignments with the Black Stars. Now, away from international assignments, let's come down to national issues. And Accra Hearts has named coach Daniel Tetevi as the club replacement for Abukar Damba, whose contract was terminated last Friday due to incompetence. Tetevi spent 8 years at the club as a player in the 1980s and was the regular goalkeeper when Hearts reached the semi-finals of the African Cup Winners' Cup in 1982. The new trainer, who holds a certificate in basic coaching, cut his coaching teeth at the Heart of Lions junior side in 1999 before quickly moving on to Mampong-based Pras FC. He has also had stints with Network FC, an academy side at Kaneshi, as well as Zaytuna FC. He is expected to start work on Tuesday, January 15, 2013, as the team resumes training after a week's break. Now, finally, Guinness Ghana Limited has called on football fans across the nation to join in its series of activities to show solidarity to the Black Stars in the 2013 Africa Cup of Nations. The appeal was made by marketing manager of GGBL, Agnes Esa, at the launch of its nationwide event Kick for the Stars. Now, on that note, we end the sports segment. On the news, coming up is Showbiz with Gladys Osei-Radio. My name is Rashidat Baba Kadiri. Good evening.
Good evening, welcome to Showbiz. My name is Gladys Osei-Radio. Now, the Musicians Union of Ghana has launched a research project to gather primary data about the industry, which it hopes will help grow the music industry. According to the president of Music, Abais Osei-Kofo, the research has become critical at this moment to be used as a tool for advocacy for the development of the industry. The 2 million cedi budgetary allocation made to the sector in the 2012 budget is what is going to fund the entire project.
A stakeholders workshop was held in Accra to kickstart the research project, which, by the way, is being funded principally by the 2 million cedi budgetary allocation made to the sector in the 2012 budget. The Musician Union of Ghana is leading a research to establish the economic contribution of music to our national growth domestic product. This is in line with government policy to promote research into the music industry and access data to inform evidence-based policy making as captured in the Ghana Shared Growth and Development Agenda for 2010 to 2013 document and the 2012 budget of the Republic of Ghana. The outcome of the study would be used to prepare a 4-year medium-term strategic plan to guide the development of the Ghanaian music industry.
He cracked the Da Vinci Code and found the lost symbol. American author Dan Brown's professor of symbology, Robert Langdon, will be embarking on a new adventure this May. This was disclosed earlier today by publishers of Brown's latest novel titled Inferno. Now bringing back some memories from the 80s and 90s, the days of puppetry, what in Ghana here we would say koliko. Well, so puppets used to be an alternative to cartoons many years back. With the introduction of advanced technology, it is outmoded today. Nevertheless, some people still try to do interesting stuff with it, like what I'm about to show you. So until I come your way same time tomorrow, enjoy this piece.
Well, that's how we wrap up with the bulletin tonight. But a quick recap of our headlines before we go. Businessman Alfred Agbesi Wyome was back in court as the criminal case against him resumed at the Financial Division of the Accra Fast Track High Court. Little Emmanuel, whose head was nearly decapitated in a horrifying encounter with his neighbor, is recuperating in hospital. 24 hours after an AMA ultimatum for hawkers to leave the streets of the central business, it appears it might take more to completely clear them off the streets. In showbiz, Musicians Union of Ghana, Musiga, has launched a baseline study to ascertain the real needs of the industry. On the international scene, West African troops are bound for Mali in the next few days to help a French intervention against Islamist rebels there. Well, so that's it for tonight. Join us again for the nightly news at 11. For more news, you can also log on to myjoyonline.com. My name is Gifty Ando Apia. Have a pleasant evening.